Hi, welcome back to our channel. This is Learning by Faith, our journey from public school to homeschool. This is number 4, episode 4. We are talking about our first week homeschooling. The good, the bad, the ugly.
So, how did it go?
First, we want to talk about the first week of public school in our area. We chose not to start homeschooling yet. It's called the not first day of school. People call it that.
So the way to stick it to the man is how a few people said it to me.
Yeah.
So
we don't have to be in school. Let's go. So the first day of public school in our area, we woke up, we were going camping, and started loading the van with the garage open, and
we could see our kids' friends in the neighborhood biking to school, walking to school.
Buses coming.
It was real.
It got real, and it tugged at our heart. You know, we saw everyone's pictures posted on social media of the back to school and just all the excitement of back to school and the fun, exciting feelings that brings. Really, it was more emotional than we thought it was going to be. And
yeah, practically everybody was posting their kids' back to school photos in front of their house. Or
it was kind of hard.
It was tough. It was tough for us.
Emotional and.
But even though all that was emotional, we got the van packed. It was actually, there was a weather system that was coming through Utah. We had planned to go 2 days, the day before school, the first day of school in our area. And so, but it was too rainy. And so then we actually ended up leaving the morning of the first day of school when we're packing the van and all of our kids' friends were going down the road. But once we got out of town, that morning, it was awesome. It was really fun. So the place where we went, it was nice to go camping and being outdoors.
There was a lake.
Being in nature. Yeah, there was
My dad was able to come. He brought his fishing kayaks and fishing poles, and the kids were fishing. Everyone caught a fish.
I think everybody caught a fish, which was pretty cool.
We paddle boarded. We followed ducks around the lake and kind of talked about ducks. And
yeah, there's this area at the one end of the lake that it's got the reeds and the weeds and things, marshy stuff coming in, and there's ducks everywhere. And we were paddleboarding and kayaking in there. And I think at one point there's a beaver den that's built there. And it was just so fun to talk to the kids and like, hey, see, that's where the beavers go in.
That was so cool.
And this is what the ducks do. And they could see the ducks, putting their heads and their little bums coming up in the air. It was it was a lot of fun. It was fun to spend that time on the water with the kids.
And it was cool to think that they could have been just sitting in a classroom all day, but instead they're outside experiencing nature. We were talking about the stuff growing on the rocks and then how it kind of erodes the rocks and, thanks to the signs on the little hike, how it erodes the rocks and makes it fall down. And so we were learning things and it was awesome.
Yeah. And I think with that, we just, it's reminded us, and as we have started this homeschooling journey, that we have to be ready to teach our kids no matter where we're at, and that learning is a lifelong thing. To be curious, I love that word, curious. That we need to be curious about learning about all things that are around us. Also, something I wanted to mention too was, that night when we were in the tent, we were all going to sleep in the tent, and we finally got lights out, and everyone was cozy and comfy in their bed. I had this thought that came to me that all that mattered to me was under that tent roof. Nothing else mattered. And I didn't need to depend on anybody else or other than God to school my children. And that was a great feeling and an awesome feeling, and also a weighty feeling too. So I'm not going to pretend that this is going to be easy or this is easy, but that's what we did for our first day of school. Kids went swimming the next day after we got home at the local public school.
Public pool.
Public pool. Sorry, not public school, public pool.
And it was still open this last week of school, and so it was awesome. We first got there, and there's pool to ourselves, hardly anyone there. So that was awesome. That was fun.
Yeah. So how would you say the first week went?
Week 1 of schooling. It was tough.
It was a little tough. We're not gonna sugarcoat it.
Good, but tough. Our oldest two soon realized very quickly that it was way harder than they thought it was going to be. Even the first, we've only done 4 lessons. It was a lot. It doesn't, I don't know. I think also The Good and the Beautiful is a little bit advanced for
if your kids are coming out of the public school like our kids, I think their curriculum is just a little bit higher standard than what that level is. And that's probably a good thing for them to hear me say that. But from where our kids were coming from, our kids read a lot.
It seemed like
and
a jump.
It seemed like a significant jump. And so I think for them, there's a hurdle.
It required a lot of like hand holding, walking them through the lessons. And this first week, we just said we're going to complete a lesson a day. And so it took us longer than expected. Let's see. A good thing is the first day we went on a walk before we started school. And after we finished up, we made Play-Doh, and they each got to pick their colors and smells. And
even our older kids loved it.
They loved it.
Older
it was so
kids
awesome.
still love Play-Doh. Adults love Play-Doh.
They played Play-Doh while we listened to our book. One thing we found, obviously, our oldest takes a lot more time. We knew that it would, but balancing that time to make sure the oldest gets a lot of our attention and starts earlier so they don't have to wait a lot is a little bit tricky because, balancing it between our youngers that don't need a whole lot of time.
I think we kind of summed it up. I think the youngest kid, he probably does what total? How many?
It's like 40 minutes total.
Maybe 40 minutes tops to get through all the things that he is required to do in the curriculum.
Yeah.
And then our oldest is like, when we tallied up the hours on the average day, it's like 4.5, maybe 5 hours of stuff. Again, there's an ebb and flow.
Definitely on the longer side this week, though.
Yeah. So we know that some of that hurdle is us, the kids learning how to
how it even is structured and
how
the
we
flow
do
of things, and
like, what is this? Oh, we're supposed to read something here, and now we're supposed to go to this chart, and so I think that will get easier as time goes. But it was definitely rocky this week on that. We're not gonna sugarcoat it.
Yeah, one of our kids the first day took their brand new scissors. They're so excited to have scissors and snipped our recliner. So
the fabric
that
on the
was
recliner.
Awesome.
Right in the middle of it, snipped with the scissors. And we were like,
and in my mind,
what are you doing?
I'm like, if you would have just been at school, this wouldn't have happened. But
that's just some of what we're going to have to
learn to
not deal with, but that is what family life is that we're not running away from our problems. We're learning to live with each other and develop those relationships, and those things are going to happen. It was a good reminder for both of us on day one that those kinds of things are going to happen. They're here all day long, every day. Why that never happened all summer long, I don't know why. Why did it
he finally
happen?
had scissors, like his perfect size.
So what would you want to do different this week?
Going forward, this week's going to be better. It's going to be, we've got resolved efforts. I am going to try to manage our time better. There were a few times I felt like I was running from kid to kid, back and forth, up and down stairs. They had a question, and I did not like that. I think I need to be more clear that, like, this is my time with this kid. You'll have to wait, move on to something else. I don't know. We have to figure that out. Yeah.
I'll take the next one. We have to get to bed earlier at nighttime, and we also have to get up earlier in the morning. So this is a tricky one for us. But that's definitely something that we know.
Yeah,
we were up late every single night because we were prepping for the next day.
Well,
and
also like, okay, well, this didn't work out well today, so tomorrow we should do this different, which means we have to do this at night. And so it was tricky. We weren't hard. Just watching Netflix at night while we were up late.
We haven't watched TV forever. Actually, I watched the BOU game with them last night, but
Another thing I need to do better is more like meal prep beforehand, not making harder meals. I like to cook, but
she likes to cook lots of things that are complicated and complex. and that's hard to do. Oh,
But especially, dinners, they have to be easy, especially we have 2, 3, 4 kids in sports. And so every night was like, we have
There's
20
something
minutes
every
to
night.
eat. And so I've got to be better at that.
So what did we do yesterday? We spent mostly you.
I made 8 freezer meals yesterday.
I don't know if that's even gonna
I don't
last,
think
but
this is a feasible thing I can do all the time. But
we did that just
took
as
me
a
a couple
way.
hours,
But we did a lot of
worth
meal
it.
planning to say, okay, this is what breakfast is, and this is what lunch is. The lunches have to be easy, and we've actually had conversations with the kids to say, hey, don't expect elaborate like Saturday, Sunday lunches that they get on the weekend. Yeah. They're quick, they're easy. We just got to hurry. We have about an hour in our schedule we created for our family. We have an hour for preparation, eating, and cleanup.
Cleanup, maybe go for a walk if we have time.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So they have to be pretty easy lunches. And then dinners, we've been planning them out so that, we're big users. We have 2 Instant Pots. We're big users of Instant Pots. And so that's a lot of those freezer meals is that it's something she can throw in and then we have something ready to go whenever we can gather the whole family together to eat.
Yep.
And that's a big thing for us too, is that we are gathering to eat for dinner together at nighttime. Yep. And we eat most breakfasts, unless I'm leaving to work really early, most breakfasts we eat together and do our little devotional in the morning before everyone goes their way and gets started on their work. But dinner times also, we've always had that culture in our family that we gather for dinner. Meals. So mealtime, food time, even the time preparing the meals with our family, we've always thought is important, and that kids should help, and that we should be talking and developing relationships with each other. So that's another big thing. Yeah, that's all you. That was me saying what you wanted me to do when we got married.
Another thing we're doing, instead of finishing the lesson, because our older 2, we were like, let's try to finish a lesson this week. And it was taking them over an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, almost 2, to get through math or language arts.
And it says in here that a lesson, it's supposed to be a lesson a day, and their lessons were going longer than the recommended time. And so again, back to that, we think that maybe our kids coming out of public school were not quite up to the standard that the Good and the Beautiful has. And so we were just trying to get through the lesson, even though it was taking longer than they recommended.
Yeah. And which made the day not so fun. And it kind of made our schooling.
We weren't any more efficient than we thought we would be.
So this week, we're going to try just setting a timer. We're going to follow the time in the lesson book that says, it says it should take them about, 45 minutes. If they work longer than that, stop the lesson. And it says that. And so for my older 2, we are going to have timers, and we have said you need to be focused. Try to be focused during that time. If you're getting distracted with the dog or whatever, like, you should add some time on. But when that time is up, they'll put it aside and work on it. If they want to work on it in the evening, that's fine, or they can save it till tomorrow. Yeah.
And we know that they're going faster already than kids in public school on those subjects. And so that's part of this. A lot of homeschooling websites say that it's just part of the detox phase, that to know that you can just put a bookmark in it, or put a marker, sticky note on where you left off, and then you just pick it up again the next day. Yeah. Most important is that you're doing it every day, that it is focused, that they are making their way through the book and the lessons, but
it doesn't have to be one lesson a day.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the hard thing for our minds to get through, but it's going to be okay. Another thing is relying on the Lord more. I don't think we can do this by ourselves. Mm-hmm. This is intense. It takes a lot from me during the day and us at night. I think I could be better at relying on the Lord and saying more earnest prayers in the morning, better scripture study than I have been doing. I think that will help and benefit.
Yeah, just being more intentional in our prayers and looking to the Lord for blessings and expecting miracles to happen. And like I say, with all these learnings that we're telling right now, we had lots of highs and lots of lows this week. Like
There were tears, mostly mine.
Well, there were tears. I had other tears. One day I got to do one of the lessons with my son. I shared it in my testimony today at church that, one of the lessons was, we have been feeling unsure about this. And I had a tender mercy this week when my son brought me his language arts book. And the lesson was about the country of Ecuador.
Which is where he served his mission.
I served my mission
really
in
cool.
Ecuador. And for me, it was a tender mercy. It was a way for Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ to say to me, hey, this is going to be good. You're doing the right thing. This is a good thing. And they used somebody of the good and beautiful thought to put in a story about Ecuador. And he's reading a book about this kid named Chico from Ecuador. And that Heavenly Father knew that I would need that in our first week. The first time I was going to sit down with one of our kids to help them through their language arts. It was such a it was a tender mercy, and it was a miracle. It was a literal miracle right in front of our eyes that was something. And I got to talk to them about my mission. And then I came up at lunchtime because I was working from home that day. And I was like, the kids are all eating lunch. And I was like, I had to tell you about something that just reminded me of my mission in Ecuador. And it was so good. Like, I thought it was awesome. We thought it was awesome at lunchtime to be able to talk about that. And then I said, goodbye, I'm going downstairs. And I went back
yeah. So this week we also got together with our new co-op group that we started. I'm sure we'll do another video about that. We wanted, the biggest concern that we have and that other people have about homeschool is just like, how are your kids going to be socialized? When are they going to be with other kids? And so we kind of created a little group that we can get together with.
A little group, but when we created the group, it was on Facebook. We created a group and we called it by the city names that are around us. And within 48 hours of posting the group,
there were like 20 people who
we had over 20 people that were requesting to be in the co-op group. And our co-op group now,
we are kind of trying to keep it a little smaller and tight knit so we can get to know people and kind of even maybe go to houses and stuff.
But our co-op group is not supposed to be for to teach curriculum. We are actually strictly making it about socialization. So it's just get-togethers with other homeschooling families with kids, just so that all the kids can get together, have hangouts,
do a little field trip, go somewhere.
So the fact that we got great responses was very encouraging for us to say, oh, phew, like there's others out there. And we've had so many conversations. We've had so many conversations with other parents in our area. When we go to sports practices and we start talking to other parents, and I've met so many people who have already started homeschooling, or who this is their first year like us,
or who even just want to,
but maybe they're afraid or scared, which has given us more faith and confidence to continue with this video blog thing on YouTube, because we know there's other Utah parents or members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in any state or anywhere in the world that maybe are a little bit hesitant to remove their kids from the local public school and to bring them home,
but maybe feel like they should or are interested in it.
And we hope to talk more about this in a future episode as well. So we'll circle back to that topic.
Yeah. So anyway, we had our first co-op meeting. It went well. Only a few people came. Well, we have to figure out different days, but
coordinating everybody's
it was
schedules.
good to meet some new friends, and that was a high part, I think, of the week. But that was week one. It was real. And
high five, Campbell.
We made it through week one. Week two, hopefully will be a little better. I know a little more. We know we're a little bit more experienced.
We know something more than we did 7 days ago.
Tiny baby newbie homeschoolers, but we're learning by faith as we go.
Thanks. See you next time.
Have a good one.